update all of you guys on what the latest is with regards to government relations and any collaboration with the NHS. So I'll earmark all of those updates for that UK Active call. Also, as part of that same theme, I'm just going to read this off my notes so I don't screw this up. Carl is now part of the steering group panel, which is part of the UK's Advanced Clinical Practice Collaboration with Health Education England, with regards to upskilling clinical practitioners and fitness professionals to create parity of rehabilitation services all across the UK for people who are dealing with chronic illness and disease and multiple comorbidities. What that means in MEL terms, here's Carl to explain.
So what this is, Mel, is a coming together of various types of kind of experts, shall we say, across the UK to inform practice, because what's been lacking for a long time is parity. People get a different rehab experience based on their postcode, and we need to change that, because we need to make sure that everybody is getting the best possible care. And also, it's been recognised that we've got to work in partnership. Clinic has to work with the health space and the fitness space, because that's where the long-term rehabilitation gets done. So it's about bringing those worlds together seamlessly so that everybody in the UK benefits from a better standard and quality of care. It means that we are developing pathways for them to have more meaningful partnerships with their local PCT, NHS, cardiac, cancer rehabilitation, COVID. That's a part of our strategy, that's on our radar. And also just taking stock and recognizing the fact that if you're overweight, if you are obese, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have cancer, cardiovascular disease, the list goes on, you are infinitely more likely to develop a second comorbidity. So if you have type 2 diabetes, you have dramatically increased your risk of developing cardiovascular disease, more likely to experience a stroke and some cancers. And lots of people do. So what we need to do is start to recognize, well, we have recognized, we need to do more about it. We need to start to intervene so that we can give people lifelong management strategies that, benefit them, that change their position and their situation. And that can't happen it's not feasible for that to happen under the hospital roof. This is about clinicians working in partnership with fitness professionals so that there is this seamless transfer and handover. So they go from clinical rehabilitation into lifelong exercise compliance, making more positive changes around their lifestyle. There's been examples of this. There have been areas of best practice. There have been areas that have done this great, but not enough. They are the exceptions to the rule and not the rule. And this has been talked about for a long time. And I think we're really at a point now where we've got a lot of really good people around the table who are invested in this professionally and personally. And we have the ear of all the right people to say, let's make this happen. Let's press go on this. Let's put something in place that benefits everyone, that upskills both areas, raises awareness in both areas of where specific skill sets exist. For those clinical practitioners and colleagues to recognize the quality and standard of the skill set that the fitness professionals possess, and for those fitness professionals to recognize those conditions, understand the language, and see where those people are coming from so that they can best cater for them. Because the fact is, we have society at large that en masse is dealing with chronic illness, and we can't repair that. We can't do much about it just within a clinical scenario, but we can do a ton about it by bringing those two worlds together. And for me, a big part of what drives this is parity. You should not be disadvantaged purely because of where you live. People should be able to benefit from the exact same standard of excellent quality of service when it comes to their rehabilitation, regardless of where they are. So it's a big part of making a start on that as well.
Quickly, there's nothing there that you've said that anybody listening would disagree with, of course. But to give people a bit of assurance, really, because I think that's a page that a lot of people listening to this, we've all been on that page for a long time. So give people a bit of assurance that this isn't just a more talk situation. What's the first step of action that the group's taking? Are we allowed to share that?
Yeah, so we've devised, or we are devising, a framework, and much of that is already in place with regards to the key content and themes and what's going to drive forward with what we need to put in a package of what represents best quality, best practice of care. So what we need to do is flesh out that framework, which we intend to do by the end of February, get an agreement on that from all invested parties, and then we need to roll that out as what's going to devise the structure of education we put in place, and also the structure of how services need to be put in place. Because the first point of call, Mel, is whilst people agree, is that we do lack depth of expertise in those areas. You know, there is a bit of a bridge. So there are people who are really good at the acute clinical stuff, and there are people who are really good at the 12 months down the road stuff. But the critical period is between those two, and that's where we lose people. So whilst people might wear on their heart and sleeve and go, we're all for it, that's the gulf. That's the bit we need to upskill on. And that means education on both parts. So that's why it's in collaboration. It's for Health Education England that we put this together. Then what you've got is a vehicle by which you can drive the principle forward so that there is a change, a continental change in regards to the attitudes, functions, and practices of how people engage in those services and where those services take place. So it's early days, but we're making a big start. But the plan for this is not to contain anything that we don't need to contain within a clinical space. And what I mean by that, Mel, is that the minute someone is not high risk, which for most people is typically in the wake of their surgery or treatment, the critical window was about 4 weeks, that they are then undergoing this within the fitness space. So we need to build partnerships and collaborations so that that's where this takes place. It's recognized that that's more inspiring. It has far more on offer with regards to how those facilities function. And also it's a part of changing the identity from patient back to character, back to individual, and allowing people to re-identify themselves through their exercise experience and their journey, the lifestyle changes they're going to make, and not constantly being under this banner of patient, and that kind of white coat syndrome.
So from a tangible perspective for the guys listening, it's going to be some new education content to help bridge the gap and upskill the guys in the workforce on the ground. Mm-hmm. And then like a deeper integration and a more widely acknowledged and stronger partnership working between health practitioners, local GPs, and all that sort of stuff. Correct?
Yeah, and clinical departments, hospital, and then all of that forms, the foundation for how we fund it. So making a business case that shows what we get as a better return on investment for some centralized funding when we do health and rehabilitation this way, because currently, brass tacks, there's not a great return on investment, because people typically get more sick. So it's about saying, well, if we invest in this way, because services need to be funded and people's time need to be paid for, if we invest in this way, how we can evidence a better return on investment. And the key outcome of that is improved health, quality of life, and greater exercise compliance. Whichever way people cook it. And I know that I talk about this a lot and you talk about this a lot, and we sit in those forums, which is a bit like that bubble that everyone's inside. We are at a critical point. Things have to change, and it's not just about talk. This is why I'm a part of these kind of groups and forums, and the things that we do is because we now have to start to make the change. Everyone's agreed we need to make the change. This is not sustainable. We were talking back in April, May last year. It's within the CAWS content. It's got out of hand. The reason why so many people feel vulnerable under the current climate is because health across the board isn't great. we've known for a long time it's out of hand. It's been a plague in slow motion. We now need to do something about it, because, you know, we're past the 11th hour. We're at the critical phase. Things need to be done better. So the agenda, which is good, because the minute it's a forced agenda, then things happen. What I'm really grateful for is that it's not led to panic. What it's led for, the people leading this group, I have to say, I think are outstanding. And, you know, there's a very measured, mindful, intelligent approach to this, and a desire to do it right, and therefore only have to do it once. Create a framework, create a foundation that yet we can evolve and improve, but that is best fit from the start. And that's why they've brought in so many different areas of expertise to inform this, so that everybody's accounted for. And we're currently, you know, next steps, as well as finalizing the framework, is bringing in those expert patient groups. So getting the patient voice, you know, learning from the experience that people have had previously. So the exercise isn't something that's done to them, but the exercise and lifestyle changes is something that's done for them. And that therefore we get greater compliance, and we change people's attitudes towards what they expect from life.
And this isn't, just to finish, this isn't one of those things that's going to drag on and be spoken about for the next 12 months, is it? So I think you said the first deadline or so is March, I want to say.
No, end of Feb. Well, there's a series. I wish it. Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it, Mel. No, it's not going to, something's going to drag on. The reason why my working day has been extended by about 2.5 hours each day is because we're on this right now. So, you know, there's huge accountability. There are milestones and deadlines. And yeah, this isn't something to wander off and get lost, because that time's the Quango time, the kind of talking about stuff for the sake of it, and wouldn't it be nice? It's all gone, Mel. You know, this is getting done.
Okay. Next on the list, CAWS YouTube. Don't forget, guys,